Hey yo guys, this is Kotzwurst with another discussion video for the Outlast trials, which we've done a lot of these recently with like the new content. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of them felt like I'm not gonna say negative because it's just voicing my opinion, but like obviously it's less of a fun thing and more of like, okay, this maybe needs some looking into, like as like quote unquote thoughts and prayers and whatever. So today I want to do something different, a little bit more fun. And today I want to look at the rigs because rigs haven't gotten that many changes recently. So I want to go over every single rig except stun rig because stun rig is overtuned as shit. But like look at like the other 5 rigs and basically think of ways to like change them and mostly buff them to make them more interesting. Again, not the goal of this is not to make them as broken as stun, because you know stun is overtuned as shit, but I don't want to start a discussion today. But like give them interesting utility, like new utilities, or buff them in other ways to make them way more interesting candidates, because a lot of these rigs have like really good potential but are just off, or you know there's an ability of them that is not that great. So just spitballing random ideas, which I would love to read the comments on that video if you agree with some of these or if you have ideas on your own. But yeah, we're starting from strong and go down the weak in my opinion. So we're starting off with Jammer, second best rig in the game. I love using it, like it's such a cool playmaker tool. So there won't be that many changes for it. But one big thing about Jammer, that if you use Jammer a bunch, especially in escalation, you notice that a lot. The difference between having upgrades on Jammer versus having no upgrades is insane. Like, a lot of the other rigs obviously also suffer a little bit from this, but I feel Jammer is like the worst offender of this. So, right off the get-go, what I would do a little bit in like a Jammer rework is making a lot of these things partially base kit. Mostly improve Jammer and long distance. I implore you to run them without these upgrades and then run them with the upgrades. The difference is astronomical. Like, in an ideal world, they would, like, the effect of these would be made like 50-50 base kit upgrade. Like, for example, long distance, you have to literally be right next to the object pretty much to fucking use it if you do not have this upgrade. Whereas with the upgrade, you can be half across the room. So, like, split it in half, give like half of the effect you get from the upgrade, but like half of the other effect you get from base kit, because like right now it's like insane. Same with improved jammer. There is also abilities that you gain when you upgrade your jammer, these being pacemaker, rewire, and corrupt enemies. I think like pacemaker and corrupt enemies, I will get to corrupt enemies in a second. These are abilities that should be locked behind upgrades. Rewire on the other hand, I'm gonna ask this question, okay? Have you unironically ever used destroying a trap without rewiring it? I feel it's like one of the most pointless things you can do in this game. You do, especially without improved jammer, you just do on like a trap for like 20 years and then it just gets destroyed. There's really not a whole lot of a point to it. So what I would also do in the same vein of making partially base kit is make the rewire build to base kit at a weaker form. And you know what the rewire upgrade would then do instead is just increasing the stun of enemies to what it is now. So right now rewire would then be small guys, for example, are like stunned for like a strong arm stun, like 8 seconds, 8-9 seconds. And you know, if you don't have the upgrade, you can still rewire traps, and you know, it would, you know, stun like small guys, for example, for like a brick stun, which isn't a whole lot, especially around objective scenarios. But one thing you can then still do is rewire traps in advance and lure enemies into them if you're getting chased, and then you would still gain a lot of valuable distance, and it would be better than nothing in my opinion. That being said though, these were all changes I would do to improve the base kit, because again, Jammer in itself is like very good already, so it doesn't need many more changes. However, there's one thing I would like to look at, and that's corrupt enemies. you cannot tell me that you didn't expect something else when you read like the flavor text of this one versus what we actually got with like the vomit thing. So I would rework this. Now, may still have it for like normal enemies where the vomiting still happens, but make it be an ability disabling tool. So like if you jam an enemy for like 30 seconds, which I'm also gonna preface that it will still take long amount of time to like jam the enemy. Now that's been reworked, it's justified. For 30 seconds, the enemies can't use their abilities. For example, Franco will still attempt to shoot you, but he can't actually hit you because you jammed his gun. For the Crest Twinge, like Aurora takes like a timeout because they don't have the 360 degree vision and their poison vial thing anymore. For Night Hunter, he would be blind, like period, because you disable his night vision, and so on and so forth. So this would become a tool where you are disrupting enemy abilities, which is good because it's very strategic, which Jammer already is. So you can make plays like in Poison Cattle, jam Franco in the background, and once he's jammed, like everyone can rush like the cattles with the poison. And then Franco can't catch up. You might even try to aim and shoot, but he can't hit anybody. So you can make the segment, with strategy, you can make the segment like pretty easy. And like, it would be quite a tool making ability without stunning enemies again, because let's be real, like there's so many ways to like I find it boring to like just add another stun, and that would be like a lot more in line what Jammer is, which is a strategic tool. Sorry, I just woke up, the English language isn't languaging, I guess. But yeah, I think it would be pretty cool. I don't know how that would like look case to case, like what the Berserker would actually then do, what the Witness would do, like if it like breaks the Witness AI, for example, and then the Witness just chases you like a normal enemy so you can kite them. Like, I don't know how that would look like base to base on like enemies, but I think it would be a pretty cool ability to have. Now blind, I think I cooked with like the blind idea. Unlike some other ideas, like, yeah, I will admit, like, spoilers for Barricade, I think it was a bit cheap, the idea that I got for it, but like for blind I feel like cooked like quite a bit. One thing right from the get-go, it will be a bit of a nerf. I would revert the change that I did. Like, a few updates ago, for some reason again, they went ahead and decreased the deploy time of blind. My blind is a strategic tool that is supposed to be used in advance, so I would revert that back to 5 seconds. I know people don't love to hear it because people think blind is hot garbage simply because, you know, you can't do it in the enemy's face. It means they're using blind wrong. I would still revert that. However, the main crux of the rework comes from the recharge upgrade, which won't be an upgrade anymore. This will be replaced with something else, and instead we have that base kit. So how recharge now actually works, instead of recharging on its own when like the timer is like up, which I think is like 30 seconds, where like it makes the sound effect and it turns green, instead it turns orange. And what the blind mind user can then do is go ahead and like rearm the trap manually, like go on the ground, do like the spinny thing, bam, rearm. This rearm will be a lot shorter than setting down the blind. We're talking like 2.5 seconds, 2 seconds with deploy technique. And the main twist about this is you can do that with a unlimited amount of times. So the idea of this is, as long as you have a really good mind place down, you can go ahead. If you have like an opening, you can't do it in enemy's face. That's the point of, you know, still having the 2.5 seconds. But you can rearm this mind as many times as you want. It replaces. It doesn't replace it. I'm sorry, my English is like fucking cooked right now. I'm sorry, what the hell I'm even saying. It rewards strategic mind placement, which right now is a bit of an issue because you could argue the game is just not built around it, but right now the best places for blind most of the times is for revive, which is pretty strategic, I will admit, or right next to the objective, which, you know, is pretty boring. So right now, like with this rework, what this would do is, if you, let's say, have a high traveling area with enemies, you can place down a mine, stun enemies, and after like 30 or like 40 seconds, you can like rearm it and immediately use it again. So it gives you like more stun than a stun if you place down the mine in a good place. And that would also be interesting because, again, you're playing around the rearm cooldown. So if you're using a good mine, you do not care about the rig cooldown anymore. Except for if you have to replace it, which if you have bad placements, then you have to worry about the cooldown. Or, and that should be pretty obvious honestly, the new upgrade, which is simply you can place down 2 mines at the same time. You can have 2 mines placed down in general in like in the vicinity, both of them acting independently. You can rearm them as well. Again, keep in mind, only the blind mine user who this mine belongs to can actually rearm, so it's not just anyone can do it, so the blind mine user has to have the agency over the mine. But I feel that this rework would be very interesting. It does not have the automatic rearm anymore, so I'm kind of hesitant to call this like a straight up buff because it's more of a rework, but I still think, especially since you can do that unlimited times if you and get like a lot of value if you get like good placements, I feel this has insane potential to be very strong and, you know, enable strategist gameplay that like the blind mind should promote. Alright, moving on to Heal Rig, which I think is the 4th best now. I think Barricade fell off, by the way. But like, moving on to like the Heal Rig, there is a bunch of things that can make it better. I think the main issue with Heal Rig right now is it is pretty decent at what the hell it does. But it still falls off simply because you don't have that much playmaking potential. Like, most of the users of the heal rig are mostly boiling down to correcting mistakes and shit like that. So these ideas kind of address this a little bit and, you know, make it so you can actively make plays with it more. First and foremost, I think there should be something to combat bleeding. I find it weird that the fucking heal rig can't do anything to bleeding at all. One idea I had is like a complete passive one. This is not an upgrade, this is just a base kit thing. And that is if you're running heal rig, not if it's available like off cooldown or whatever, just if you have heal rig, you are immune to certain status effects, that being bleeding. So right from the get-go, if you're in a gooseberry trial and she tries to hit you, you will never be affected by bleeding ever. I think it would make sense since you are supposed to be like a medic if you're running heal. And, you know, you can expand that to other status effect like the nausea or, you know, the psycho damage you get from the variator, not psychosis in general, but like the psycho damage you get from the psycho damage variator. You can like expand that idea to it, like as like a passive. You're protected from shit like that as long as you run heal, but like bleeding is the one that came to mind the most. So healing would just be a passive thing to help you with it. Also, I think this right here is very fucking outdated. Silent help. This should just be base kit. I don't know why the hell this is an upgrade. Like, healing occurs silently. I would replace this with everyone gets adrenaline on use. It won't make sense if you're emitting like a gas and then, you know, the gas causes adrenaline in everyone's range that is like in the gas cloud, so it enables you a little bit to do more plays with it, because, you know, you can just use it without healing or like healing psycho damage. You can just use it to like push. For example, with the no running variator, you can then go ahead and like use it so everyone can just rush despite the variator. And then last but not least, I think I want to look a little bit at the poison upgrade, because the poison upgrade is really garbage overall, especially since like enemies are slowed down, but they still launch for like the exact same range if they're like close to you, so it doesn't even fucking matter. So what I would do instead, make it more of like defensive ability, and instead it blinds enemies. They will still be able to hear everything, so you cannot greet objectives. It's not the best tool for it. You would still need to use like blind or stun or whatever. But let's say you're getting chased by an enemy, you're getting cornered, you can use your heal to like heal yourself and spray enemies. They are going through the animation, and then they are blinded for like 20-30 seconds, whatever. So if you're then silent, they will pretty much lose you. So it's like a defensive tool for it. Again, you could probably do a lot more with heal rig, but at the same time I restrained myself a little bit for the sole reason, because again, heal does its fucking job and it's really decent, especially in escalation. But I just wanted to give it a little bit more tools, especially like the adrenaline one, so you can do a little bit more playmaking potential, which I think is where it falls off. Alright, Barricade was fucking difficult, I'm gonna tell you right now. Barricade was difficult to come up with something, so I feel my Barricade ideas are a bit like short-sighted, and I will straight up say a lot of these ideas I've also just read from the community and I'm just rephrasing them. So right off the get-go, Barricade will be a unique rig because it will have 2 charges. Keep in mind, extra Barricade will be reworked to something else entirely, which you will see later. But yeah, it will have 2 charges. So if you have prepared, you will have both of the charges available. If you don't have it, the rig starts on cooldown at the start of the trial. Once the rig is available, it will go through another 40-second cooldown, and then you get like your second charge, so you can go ahead, place a barricade. But then if you already still have a charge, you can then use another barricade, and so on and so forth. I think you get the principle of 2 charges. Also, it now has a lot more uses until like the first barricade breaks. Like right now with extra barricade, it's only 2 barricades, and I think that's very limiting. Like I would go for like 4 or even 5 placements in total until like the first one gets replaced, especially with the mine rework. I think it would be very justified, and you can like create a little bit of mazes, especially if you have like a wicked charger. That being said though, there's also a new strategic layer to this, and this is what this upgrade will be replaced to. You can now upgrade your barricade. So how does this work? If you have a cooldown charge, which again, I'm saying cooldown charge because, you know, you can now have up to 2 charges of barricade at once. You can go ahead to a existing barricade and upgrade it. It's like an animation where you like pull in some wires or something to like mount an explosive or something like that. So you're arming the barricade further. Keep in mind, you cannot do this while enemies are bashing down the barricade. One thing about barricade you can do right now, and you will still be able to do, is when an enemy bashes down a thing, you can like set up the barricade while they're bashing. So, you know, you can you can set it up, and you know, it reinforces the thing that enemies want to break through. You cannot do this with an upgrade. Like you cannot reinforce a barricade while you you know, upgrading. So you have to do it in advance, similar to blind. It's like a strategic thing. But what happens if you like upgrade a barricade? What it does is it gives it a little bit more resistance, maybe 1 more hit. So instead of like 8 seconds, it's like 10 seconds to break. And I'm sorry, it's very fucking boring. It stuns the enemy, similar to Rewire. So like the one that's bashing, like if there are multiple enemies behind the one bashing, they are not affected, but like the bashing enemy is like getting stunned. So for example, the small guy is getting like a strong arm stun where they're falling on the floor. The big guys, they're like, you know, kneeling down, etc, etc. So, you know, you have this option to like reinforce a barricade at like the cost of like going to another wick cooldown, and you know, it makes the barricade a little bit better at like the cost of it. Again, you can have up to like, let's say 5 barricades up at once, and then you can also upgrade every single one of them, which, you know, makes Barricade pretty funny, because if you have a lot of rig recharges, you can like lock down a place, and I think that's pretty hilarious. Also, I'm just rephrasing another suggestion I've heard of a lot of people, and I think it would make sense for the Barricade to do it. You can block like insertion gates, monster closets, whatever you want. You can block that for, you know, enemies that are coming in. You can do it while they're spawning if you have like with like a normal barricade, or if you wanna upgrade, if you're anticipating that an enemy is like coming out of a closet, for example, for like a final encounter, you can place it in advance and also upgrade it in advance with like the new upgrades to store them for as long as possible. Anyways, that's all I got for Barricade right now. I know it's a bit boring, but I just find it very difficult to like make Barricade a lot better. So this might still be undercooked and still be not that great, but I hope it makes Barricade a lot more fun to play, mostly because there's like a lot of more strategic depth with it, and you know, make it hopefully a little bit better. And last but not least, let's look at Xray, which straight up I wanna keep the intel part of it, like of the rig. I'm not gonna add a version of stun to it, which you will see what I mean. But yeah, first and foremost, let's address the cooldown, which right now, it's always been a bit of a discussion, like how the fuck is the Xray cooldown supposed to be, because I remember the time, it was like around Geister in 2023, where they made Xray duration shorter, but also the cooldown shorter, and then people complained, I want to have Xray for longer, but other people liked it. So we're going for, you know, solution for everyone, and make Xray based on a resource meter. What this means is you tap Xray to start like you tap your, I wanted to say power button, but like you use your rig, and you can immediately like cancel it earlier if you just want to use it for like 2 seconds, and then you get a way shorter cooldown, whereas you can use it for the max duration, and then it's more of a cooldown like it is right now, like 45-60 seconds. And let's say you use it only for like 1.5, 2 seconds, it's like a 10-second cooldown or something. So if you want to use it for a short duration, get it back sooner, you can do that. But if you want to use it for a long duration, you can do that as well. Regarding the objective thing, all objectives should be shown, period. They've started doing that from update to update, that more and more objectives are shown. Like, I remember them secretly adding that from like a patch. Oh, now you see the bleach bottles. Oh, now you see the poison bottles. Now you see the acid buckets. Like, every objective, if you have like classified intel, should just be shown within range. And in similar fashion, you can expand that idea to other types of objectives that are not objects. And this is where it becomes interesting. Highlight that you can see the symbols that you need for like the decoder, for example, through walls. You would still obviously need the decoder to like find, like to figure out the number, but you can see them through the walls doing like short range with Xray, so you can locate them easier. But also similarly, the UV change, because we now have a bunch of objectives that are based on UV, and one thing that Xray could do regarding showing objectives that would be very interesting would be highlighting UV without having UV turned on. What the fuck does that mean? What the hell am I talking about? Let me give you an example. crush the sex toys. I've thought about it a lot. Would be very interesting if Xray was viable to see the boxes and you don't have to do the gens. So if you were able to see UV, you would be able to like use your Xray to look at the boxes without having to turn on the generator and see the correct number with it. Would give you like a stealth option instead of having to crank on the gen, luring enemies to you. You can stealth instead and you highlight the UV numbers. Similarly with like the new suburbs map, you can then highlight the numbers before you turn on the UV, so you can explore the mansion in advance before like triggering the panic room and get all the numbers while there's no enemies around if you have Xray. And there's a lot of things that you can do with Xray to like buff classified intel, which I will admit isn't the ideal thing, because then we have the same problem with Jammer, that classified intel does a lot, but once you have no wig upgrades, you're all of a sudden just being like, what the hell do I do now? So there's one last thing I would also add to Xray, which is a bit of a rework on how it actually works. So one thing with like Xray is it highlights enemies, objects, whatever. So what if there's like I would probably do this base kit. You could argue it should be an upgrade, but I would probably argue this should be base kit, okay? You will have it where you use Xray and you see an enemy. Once Xray is over, everything that you saw during Xray becomes available to see in Xray if you use night vision. That probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, me phrasing it that way, so I'm giving another example, okay? You use Xray doing snitch, okay? You see one rig recharger in like a random ass toolbox, whatever, and you see like the big guy doing its use. The big guy doing the snitch car thing, whatever. Then then you cancel Xray, or like the Xray runs out, and then until you use Xray again, you can use your night vision to always see the big guy through walls and the rig recharger through walls. Like all the objects you highlighted doing Xray, you are able to see them with night vision until you use Xray again, or if you run out of night vision batteries. So it also encourages you to like go for batteries to keep it up as long as possible, but it will always give you like tabs on like information that you have highlighted with Xray doing Xray's usage. Maybe this rework makes it so Xray becomes a little bit redundant in like using the cooldown, but I think it would be cool to keep like tap on enemies after Xray has run out, so you can go ahead and do like the push the snitch whatever, and then always have a tab with like night vision. Oh, where's the big guy right now? Now I can see him. Obviously it would be in range with Xray, so you cannot see them cross map or whatever, like it would be the same range that you would have with Xray, but you can keep tab of shit that you highlighted doing Xray's duration, and then you can use Xray again to like delete previous, like it would delete previous, but then keep tab of new shit like that with like night vision. And again, it would be very interesting because it would also make it so night vision becomes like a factor, because again, once you run out of night vision once in emergency save mode, you would run out of all the information, and even if you get a battery afterwards, you would lose all your your information, and you will have to use Xray again. Anyways, that's all the ideas I have for it. I'm very sorry that this video was like a bit mumbly. I wanted to get this out in like one take, but I just woke up and it was fucking horrible. But yeah, I hope you enjoy some of the random spitball ideas. Again, I'm just doing this for fun, just randomly spitballing ideas, because I think this game has a lot of potential, and its rigs also have a lot of potential. Again, the goal wasn't to bring it up to level with Stun, because Stun is fucking broken, but like give it random ass ideas that could be very cool to see on these to like address some of these issues. Again, if you have some random ideas of your own, I would love to hear about them in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe for more Outlast 2 content in the near future, and have a great rest of your day and take care everyone. Bye bye.